What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Movies That Make You podcast, where movies are more than just entertainment. They're a catalyst for meaningful conversations. I'm Jonathan Sprang, and I go by Sprang. And most weeks we dive into movies to watch in preparation for a new release hitting theaters. But we don't stop there. We talk about the deeper ideas, the life lessons, and the morals that these films have to offer. This week, Kristen's going to be on. We're talking Final Destination films. This is one of the horror films that she actually really enjoyed. So we rewatched all the ones leading up to the new one. Bloodlines looks amazing. Looks very scary, so we're looking forward to that conversation. We hope you'll jump over to our website and see all of our links. It's bio.site/moviesthatmakeyou. That's bio.site/moviesthatmakeyou. There you'll find all of our links to our Instagram, to each podcast stream, whether it's Apple or Spotify. You'll also find our Letterboxd link, which highlights the lists of movies that make you laugh, movies that make you cry, movies that make you scream, and everything in between. Before we dive into this week's episode, though, let's take a look at the next 4 weeks on the Movies That Make You podcast. Next week, the boys are going to be back. We're talking Mission Impossible. We watched a few of the films to gear up for the final reckoning, but we're also going to rate the stunts from the Mission Impossible movies. All the ones that Tom Cruise did himself, we're going to rate them. The week after that, we're doing The Karate Kid. Daniel LaRusso is back and Mr. Han is back. So we rewatched the original Karate Kid and also the Jaden Smith remake. So going to have a lot of fun with that conversation. The new movie looks incredible. The week after that, Scott Raymond and Kevin Raymond are both going to be on to talk John Wick movies and female assassin movies to gear up for, within the John Wick universe, The Ballerina featuring Ana de Armas. We watched 5 female assassin movies plus all the John Wick movies, so we're going to have a lot of fun having that discussion. The week after that, it's going to be How to Train Your Dragon. We're going to spend one episode talking about the animated film and looking forward to what we're anticipating about the new live action version. Hope those episodes excite you. So without further ado, let's get to the podcast. We are back with another episode of the Movies That Make You podcast. I am Sprang, and I am joined by my lovely wife, Kristen.
Or your life.
Or my life. Yeah, my entire life. Kristen, yes. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. It's a nice little Saturday. We got some sausage biscuits this morning, so that was yummy.
Shout out to Bojangles.
They were running a special, 99 cents for a sausage biscuit. Can't get that anywhere else. It's like, 2000s or 1990s prices. You know what I'm saying?
Dang. Little throwback action.
Because that's what we're going to be talking about today. A movie series that started in 2000, Final Destination. So we're going to be talking about the Final Destination series because the new Final Destination Bloodlines is coming out this Friday, and I think we're all for it. I think we'll see kind of what we get to by the end of the episode, but it is one of those series that Kristen, you shared that you liked it early in our relationship.
Yeah. So first, let's talk. Where were you in 2000? Where were you in your life?
I was in college. I guess probably released in the summer of that year. So I would have been just before my junior year of college. So I was traveling with a singing group from my college to different camps and churches, kind of singing some songs on Sunday, leading worship at the camps on the weekdays. And so that's what I was doing in the summer of 2000. What about you?
That's fun. Let's see. I had just gotten my driver's license in February that year. And yeah.
So you'd been getting in trouble.
Maybe a little bit. I think I had my first boyfriend that year too. So we would just drive around, go to the mall,
Yeah.
Be outside.
And what's the mall?
Yeah. So it's a building that has all these little shops and you can just go to each one.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy to think how the world's changed in 25 years. But I mean, this is a big deal. 25th anniversary of this film. And we're getting the sixth movie in the franchise. We'll get to it, but I think everybody thought it was done. I think they even thought it was done. And someone must have come up with a fun idea. Let's reboot it. Before we get into those movies, let's just kind of do a little mustard. We call it mustard instead of ketchups because we're going to mustard it up. So how's your week been?
The week was pretty stressful. We had month end with loan closings and just busy, but turned out fine. Yeah, I actually had a scary thing at the gym a couple days ago.
Oh, yeah.
One of our members started having AFib, and she's young, and we actually had to call the EMS, but she's good, turned out fine. I think it was from an energy drink, so just be cautious if you do drink those, read the labels. You don't know what's going to happen or how your heart's going to respond, so just shout out,
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of the gym, I actually got back into the gym this week 2 times, Monday and
Yay!
Friday. for some strength. I just I'm nervous to get too back into it because of what happened at the beginning of the year, where I kind of was out of commission for a whole month with being off of my foot. So I don't want that to happen again. So I'm kind of nervous to get back, but I'm trying to go back a little bit here and there. So
Yeah, you're doing good. You just got to slow, modify, don't push
yeah,
too hard.
yeah. My week was good. On Tuesday night, went out with the guys to go see The Accountant 2. And when I looked to log it in my letterbox, I realized I'd seen a movie like the last 4 or 5 days. So I was like, this is a good week. We watched a movie Thursday night. We watched a movie Friday night. We're going to watch a movie tonight. And we're going to watch a movie tomorrow. So this is a great week for me. Work's going good. Busy. I'm just trying to make the magic happen. But yeah. So saw The Accountant 2 on Tuesday. Monday night, we watched the 28 Weeks Later film for an upcoming podcast later this year. And also we watched on Saturday night, I went and saw Revenge of the Sith, the re-release for the 20th anniversary. It's crazy. And then Saturday, I can't remember what we watched off the top of my head. Yeah, Sunday was Revenge of the Sith. Yeah. And then Saturday, I can't remember what we watched, but we watched.
We watched a movie that morning and it wasn't great.
It was I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yes.
I still know what you did last summer. That's right.
Yeah.
Also for another podcast coming up.
Yeah.
And Friday night we saw Sinners in 70mm IMAX, which was insane and so
y'all
good.
See it. Go see it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Incredible.
I also get to do the Movie Minute. I've been releasing that the last 2 months. At the beginning of the month, I released the Sprang's Movie Minute. It's more than a minute. I thought about calling it Movie a Minute, but it's like whatever. But it's just kind of talking about the movies that are coming out in the month. And so I get to post that also at work. They put that in a newsletter. That was kind of the idea, was doing something fun for the newsletter that speaks to like something I already kind of doing. So it wouldn't be too much added to my plate, but also something fun that I can share with work folks, kind of a little bit about my personality and stuff. And the other thing, we did a work video also for the newsletter. So Jeff Anderson, he's going to be on the podcast later this year. We've worked together for the last probably 7-8 years now. And so we do for the monthly newsletter at work, we do usually a funny video to kind of introduce the newsletter, or just not even the video, kind of the tail end of it introduces a newsletter and what we need to do. But usually the beginning of it is just me being silly, basically. The best part about it is that the last 2 months, I've used ChatGPT to help write the script for it. I just kind of say, here's the idea I have. Can you write a script for it? And it gets our characters right without me telling ChatGPT which character is silly. It made the Jonathan character silly and the Jeff character serious, which is like
so classic.
The exact as we've always played it. He's the straight guy, I'm the fool, and it's just like that's just how it works. But I had the idea, because of it being May, that it would be funny to have the tagline be the NSYNC Justin Timberlake song. It's gonna be May. So then I thought, how could we play on that? And I thought about doing dance moves and stuff. I was like, we don't have time to kind of work that up.
And Jeff wasn't 100% down on that too. So he was like, oh.
He was kind of okay. He was like, you are crazy, man. When do we shoot it? So it's cool. Like, yeah, so maybe next year. But then I saw a video with Jimmy Fallon, a bit from the Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, or the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, where he and Demi Lovato were having a conversation, and part of their talking was like the recordings of popular music. And I thought, this would be kind of funny if I'm talking and I'm speaking boy band. And so that's what we ended up doing. It turned out great. Had a lot of fun comments, people saying, I live for these videos. This is so great. Cool. Thank you so much. And so it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to kind of do that. And it's interesting too, like this is something I've thought about often, is that David Patrick, my best friend, and I, we've done funny videos since high school. We were doing funny videos for our youth group, for funny videos for school. I was being a fool all the way back. I've got video of me and a good friend of mine, Aaron Roberts, playing the Spartan cheerleaders from SNL with Will Ferrell and Sherry O'Terry, and I was Sherry O'Terry. Yes, and I was the girl cheerleader wearing the halter top. Is that the one where it just goes over your? Yeah, I was wearing the halter top and doing all the silly cheers at the pep rally. So I've been a fool my whole life, basically, is what I'm saying, and doing silly videos. But I even did stuff when I worked for the church, and we did funny videos every once in a while. We've got a whole series online that's the ways not to pray, and so it's just still different silly ways that certain people have prayed before and we think it's funny. And so we kind of made funny videos, kind of basically being too big, like over the top with all the
Extra.
prayers. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of my favorites is we did the pirate prayer because it was National Pirate Day. And so we released the how not to pray. And the whole prayer is in like R, and like all things are matey. And it was great. It was great. It was fun.
Oh my
So
goodness.
all that to say, I've done funny videos just for myself my entire life. And so to be able to get to do that still as a part of my job, as a part of kind of the cultural just excitement, or the way of bringing some lightheartedness and fun to our job and to our company, is just it's kind of mind-boggling, honestly, that I get to do this, do these kind of funny videos. I love my job too, don't get me wrong, but that's kind of like the icing on the cake, that I also get to use these other skills that I've learned along the way, and make other people smile. That's all.
Yeah, it's fun. And people
Yeah.
look forward to that. That's cool.
Yep, absolutely. Alrighty, well, let's jump into it. Final Destination 1 came out in 2000, directed by James Wong, starred Devon Sawa, Ali Larter, and others. Those are the two standouts from what I remember. Why don't you take it away? What's the story of Final Destination?
So it starts off with this, I think it was their high school senior class trip. And so they were all, I believe, going to Europe.
Yeah.
So
Paris.
yes, that's it. So they're all, being high school seniors and just whatever. So they get on the plane, and then Devon Sawa had this vision, which we didn't know at the time because we thought this was actually happening. And this plane takes off, and right after it's off, it explodes and like blows out the windows of the airport and everything. And I mean, it was just tragic. And so all of a sudden it like snaps him back. And then he is sitting there and he's like, this plane's going to explode. And side note, I just realized this was before 9/11. That's crazy. Anyways, so people take that seriously, and they did then too. So he was like, I have to get off this plane. And so anyways, a few other people got off the plane too, and there was a fight. And so his friend and then enemy and all these, about 6 people get off the plane. So then they're watching as it takes off, and it ends up exploding. And so they're like, oh my gosh. Well, then they go home, and I would think we would need some serious therapy after that, but to whatever. So they each just start living their life. Well, then one guy ends up dying because of his shower head cord that like strangles him. And it's all these just random things happening. And so Devon Sawa's character maps out and sees, okay, so death is actually coming after us based on the way that we were sitting in the plane. And then there's the factor where he had gotten up and changed seats, and he's just trying to help the next people that they know are coming up on the list to survive. So yeah, it was a very serious movie. It felt factual, that it wasn't
Too over the top. Yeah.
It wasn't silly or anything. So
yeah, it was it was taking itself fairly seriously. All the characters were taking it very seriously. It was presented very seriously that death is coming after you. Yeah. And we'll see as it gets further on, similar to Fast and Furious, they kind of have an initial idea for the first movie. And then as they do the sequels, they lean into the over the topness because it's a part of the charm of the film. It's a part of the charm of the, what crazy is death going to do? What craziness, what crazy ways can we kill these characters? That's what the directors and the scriptwriters end up doing, is just kind of making it over the top to make it more like it, just to make it kind of silly and fun for the fans of the franchise. Similar to Fast and Furious, where they're flying cars in space. That doesn't make any sense, but still it works because it's like they've leaned into that kind of over the topness. Same thing with this one. The first one is very serious, and then it gets a little goofier as we go along.
Yeah, but I liked it. I mean, Devon, shout out. We're going to see you in a couple months. I'm really excited. It's so cool. But yeah, go ahead.
So I was going to ask you though, so when did you fall in love with Devon the first time?
Oh my gosh. He was on Casper.
Okay.
And I was probably 12, so he was just so cute. It was like a little middle school crush. And then he was on Now and Then as also the love interest. And so, I mean, he's just adorable. But yeah.
Nice. I mean, I'm not going to lie.
In love with him?
Yeah, I thought it was a very attractive man. No, but I was going to mention that Ali Larter was definitely on the radar. I remember her. I think she came on the scene first because of Varsity Blues, and it might have actually been the same year. But she came on because of the whipped cream scene in Varsity Blues. that ends up being a very touching scene because he talks her like, you don't need to do this you shouldn't have to do this to make guys like you. Like, you're awesome just the way you are. So really cool scene. But Ali Larter, that was kind of her first. That and this were kind of around the same time. And then I remember she came back in the, what is that? Oh, Resident Evil series. She became a recurring character in that series as well, which we've watched the first one. Mia Jovovich was in that in the first one. And we'll have to pick that up we get up to October. So that'll be fun. But yeah, one of the other characters I did want to make sure we touch on is Sean William Scott is in this. Sorry, two characters. Sean William Scott is in this. So Stifler's in this. And I think he was probably in American Pie before this, but he makes another appearance here. He has one of the deaths. But then the big shout out, Tony Todd, the original Candyman. He ends up being kind of that wise oracle type character where he plays the coroner. And so when they go to kind of investigate the body, he comes out as the coroner and he gives them, this is what's happening. He basically explains that death has come. You tricked death, you cheated death, and now death isn't happy. And so then he kind of guides them on that path. And it's just a very small role. But we find out that's a recurring role that he comes back in all of the movies, even Bloodlines. He passed away last year and he has a scene in the trailer. We see him in the movie. So very excited that he gets to be in this film, that we get to see him one more time. You and I think we watched Candyman a couple years ago, and we really thought it was really great. That being kind of one of the greatest, like we had the episode a few months ago, Black Horror Films, one of the great Black horror characters to be on film. Tony Todd got to play that character. He did a whole bunch of other things in film, obviously, but that he kind of comes back to his roots in the horror genre and plays this character one last time.
That's neat.
I'm getting chills just thinking about it because it's really, really cool to me. So yeah, I remember seeing the film. I think I saw it in the theater while I was in college and I enjoyed it. I thought, this is crazy. This is great. I was in my horror element there after seeing Scream in 98, I think 97. And then kind of going on that horror journey when I got to college. This is definitely one of those I checked out and I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. The gimmick or the mechanism by which they show you all the deaths and then it flashes back and you're like, crap, that wasn't really happening. That's awesome. And they actually repeat that a few times in the series, but then they also are adding new elements to how they get to know the death is. And there's a couple of different rules they start to play with in that. All that to say, I enjoyed it, and it was a fun ride. When I saw it the first time, and I enjoyed it when we watched it a couple years ago.
Yeah, I too.
Cool. Well, let's rate it. What do you got?
I give it a 4.
Okay, very nice. I think I gave it a 3.5. Very cool. Very cool. Good movie. Check it out if you haven't seen it. And yes, we are going to see Devon Sawa very soon. I'm excited for that. Dallas Fan Expo. Cool. Yay. All right, let's jump to Final Destination 2. This is one of those movies, I think, that a lot of times we talk about sequels not measuring up to their predecessors. I think this one measures up really well without going too much into the plot just yet. There's scenes in this one that changed the way the world drove on highways and what people think about when they drive by big trucks with logs on them.
Yeah.
Nobody drives on a road like that without this scene popping up. So that's really impressive that the second iteration of this series ends up somewhat kind of circumventing or super kind of going above as far as the memorable scenes its predecessor in the first one. So this one was, it came out in 2003. So 3 years later, directed by David Ellis and stars AJ Cook, Ali Larter's back, Tony Todd is back for a very small part, and then others as well. But yeah, what's kind of your thoughts on, do you remember the story enough to kind of run it down at all? Or do you want me to?
You can run it down, but
go ahead.
Yeah, so when I think of Final Destination, I think of the logs on that truck. I don't think of the plane exploding. I mean, maybe next, but I was kind of shocked that this was in the second movie and not the first. Yeah,
for sure. So I'm going to run down real quick just a little bit of the story for this one. It starts out and there's a couple of girls going on a road trip. Their dad is a little nervous, but he's letting them go. They're going on this road trip and they're about to turn. They're on this on-ramp. They're about to get on the highway. They pull out and then all of a sudden everything on the highway goes crazy. Lots of things happen that the logs fall out and crash into cars. Cars flip over, and then gas trucks slam in, explosions happen, motorcycle driver like flips out and all this stuff. So tons and tons and tons of things happen. A couple other things that we start to get that we didn't really get in the first one is that death is hinting to them. They're seeing, if they're paying attention, they're going to start seeing signs that something's about to happen. So one of those things is that there's a school bus full of boys screaming, pile up, because they're football players, but we're about to have a highway pile up. The radio starts playing Highway to Hell. There's a little boy playing with toy trucks, and he's crashing the trucks. And then there's a street sign, the construction like flashing yellow sign says 180, which is the flight number from the first movie. So this is kind of a nuanced thing that they start to take in the second movie. Death is hinting. Also, wind is also a thing that comes into play. Wind, I think that was in the first one as well. You start to feel like there's this power, that's the unseen power that's going to start maneuvering things around. But yeah, so big pileups, big deaths, and it also all of a sudden it reverts back again, flashes back. She's in the car right before she pulls on the highway, and she's stopped and she doesn't want to move forward. Everybody in the cars behind her is mad and yelling. A cop comes up, and she tells him what's going to happen, and they don't believe him, just like in the first one. And then all of a sudden, crash, boom, explosion. Everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you saved us," But they're all kind of freaking out. But then they don't really believe her, just like kind of becomes a part of the rhythm of the films, is that they don't believe her, that she's telling the truth, and then all of a sudden everybody starts to die. I will say
they didn't go in the same order either with the deaths.
Correct. Yeah, what we end up finding out is that it's going in reverse order for some reason. It's going backwards. Tony Todd says you can beat it if you bring in new life. So one of the flashes, another thing is that she's having more throughout the movie. She's having many flashes where she's seeing things happen, and she's seeing herself in certain places and certain people, and she has to try and figure out with her boyfriend, what am I seeing and how can I stop this? How can I do this and stuff like that? Mm-hmm. So they think that one of the ladies was pregnant, so they think that that's the new life that they need to bring forth. If she has her baby, then maybe that means we'll stop death. Lots of other things happen that they get down to the end of it, and everybody dies, and it's still just a great Final Destination movie. Now go for it.
Well, the characters were somehow related to the characters on the flight, from the flight, and that was a really interesting twist.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the other things that I find fascinating about this series is the mousetrap type effect. This kind of like, I don't know if you remember the game Mousetrap, but it was
I loved that game.
All these they're called little machines that you could set up in a certain way, and you click one and it moves all the others, and then you end up setting the mousetrap. It also reminds me of Back to the Future 1, where Doc, at the very opening of the movie, there's a alarm clock goes off, and then it sets off this chain of events where all the toast gets put in, the coffee gets made, and all this stuff, everything. And that's kind of like that whole like simple machine making something really, really cool, cause and effect type situation. So that's one of the fun things about this series, is seeing how this is going to happen. And so as you're watching, you're kind of keeping your eyes open for, oh man, that's scissors there, or that's a rake there, or that's a shovel, or that's a flame. Oh no, something's going to happen in the scene with all those things, and death's going to kick it off, and it's all going to go haywire. So,
and they're all pretty graphic. Just as another side note, like, it's pretty bloody.
Yeah. One of the other things I remember is that there was a H magnet on the fridge in one of the houses, and it fell off, and there was a ladder that fell and crushed a dude's face. Yeah. So again, there's all these hints that death is now putting in there that wasn't, like I said, wasn't in the first one. But the couple survived at the end, where a lot of the other folks died, but the couple ended up surviving at the end of the second movie. But yeah, I mean, I think, what would you say? What are some of the big takeaways for you that we haven't discussed yet?
I think just the acting was really good. It felt believable. I don't know. I felt like it wasn't as serious as the first one, but we hadn't gone too far off the rails like the third, fourth, and fifth. So yeah. I thought it was a good movie. It was watchable. I would watch it again.
Yeah. One of the other story points I wanted to mention is that they find out about Flight 180, and they find out that there is a survivor, and that's Ali Larter's character, Claire. And so they go, or Clear, I guess her name is Clear Rivers. Clear Rivers, really?
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Anyway.
Better than Muddy.
I guess. But yeah, they go and find her. She has actually checked herself into an insane asylum so she can be in a padded room so that death can't take her out. They come, they try to get information from her. She's having none of it. She doesn't want to help them because she knows that it's just going to cause
It's
her death.
inevitable.
But she ends up leaving the hospital, helping them out, and then of course she actually does die in the a few scenes later.
Good
But
job,
that is
guys.
a recurring. Yeah, that's a trope you see in movies also, that one of the survivors of the previous film is there and can kind of help guide them in the new film. Very cool. All right, let's go ahead and rate it. What do you got?
I give it a 3.5.
Okay, and I give it a 3. I'm kind of like right below you on those, but yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the film. It starts to expand the mythology of the film, and that's always fun too. It's kind of, the first film establishes the rules, and then the second film kind of amplifies the rules or adds some things to for how it's going to operate. So
Yep.
cool. All right, so let's jump into the third one. Final Destination 3 came out in 2006, so another 3 years after the first one, second one. The original director comes back. James Wong is back. And this one actually stars another actor that we know from other films, Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Has been in quite a few films. And actually, most recently, she was also in the Ahsoka series that's coming back later this year. She plays Hera, but a couple others, Ryan Merriman, I've seen in other films as well. But I think the big cast on this one is Mary Elizabeth Winstead. So yeah, those are some of the castmates. But why don't you run it down? What happened in this one?
So the opening scene, they're at like an amusement park. And it's really just following this group of people. And then there's also a kid that has a video camera, and a kid that has what was it, a video camera or pictures? No, he was taking pictures. So he's like walking around and he's being a little ridiculous, like doing upskirts and stuff. But he's kind of a tool. So we already don't like him. But it's following where this other girl, one of the main characters, is really nervous to go on this one ride that's like the death ride. And she's just not sure. Well, then standing in line, her boyfriend was like, "Oh, it's going to be fine. It's fine, you know." And then the other guy, that's her friend's boyfriend, she doesn't like him, but he's like, "Oh, stop being a wuss, just do it." So then they end up being in line, and she has this vision that it's going to go off the rails and everybody's going to die. Well, then she's like, ugh. So she gets kind of bullied into going, and it happens. So then after that, a whole mess of ridiculous deaths start occurring. And this is where it takes the shift.
Yeah, for sure. Starts to be a little bit more ludicrous with the death scenes, for sure. Some of the things I remember seeing was the sign that said dive. Actually, the V was not there, so it said die. Wind blew her hair when the roller coaster went by, so that was kind of this hint that something's coming. But there's a bell that flies, and a bell flies off, and the devil laughs. Oh, the bell flies off. He's the big guy, strong guy's doing the
Yes.
kind of
The
strongest
hammer.
man hammer thing. The devil laughs and says, "You can run, but you can't hide. This is the beginning for the end. You may never return from devil's flight. Try not to scream." So that's kind of her hint that, like, okay, stuff's happening. It references the movie, the original Flight 180. They are basically retelling the rules of the first movie. It's kind of repeating the same rules we learned in the first movie. So it's going forward. So the people that died in her vision are now dying in that same order this time.
A lot of deja vu moments too. So what the main character started realizing is that the people that were in those pictures that the annoying kid was taking are the ones that are dying. And so she starts kind of piecing that together. And then also her little sister is kind of brought into this too, because she was there, and they have this bracelet. And so it's kind of like the little sister keeps stealing it, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, grandma gave that to me." And it was a part that stood out to me.
Yeah, and there's something in the picture that's telling her how they're going to die. That was what it was. So there was like one of the pictures. There's a looks like there's a flame in the background, and their faces are red, but they're in the picture. There's nothing going on, but it's hinting that this person's going to die by flames. I remember one of the pictures also depicted some sort of scythe that was on it in the picture probably from the roller coaster ride. But then the guy dies from like swords he's working out at a college, and he's doing and he's getting everybody's pumped up, and he's doing and things are dropping and stuff. And all of a sudden the swords chop his head off from the mascot or whatever.
And what's crazy about that is like this, the way they're working out at the gym coming from a personal trainer is just excessive. Like you don't
Yeah.
do that. You don't go screaming. I mean, maybe I can't speak for college training
Yeah,
rooms, so
you
never
do.
mind.
Yeah.
Okay, scratch that. But anyways, so I mean, it keeps hitting the wall, and
Hmm.
obviously, who puts up like knives like this
Yeah.
above a bench? It's
Yeah.
just a
Just bad
bad
placement.
idea.
Yeah. One of the other ones I remember was there's a couple that they're kind of the goth couple. They work at like Lowe's or whatever, because it's not Home Depot because they're wearing blue, but the Lowe's, it's not labeled Lowe's either, but it's just they're working at the hardware store, and they die. And it's also, I think it may have been this kind of dramatic in the second one, but like death is really moving things. It's not just kind of like wind blowing something over and it doing it. Like in this one, like there's a big like forklift thing that starts moving. Like, how is a forklift moving? But it's, death's coming after them. But I remember Nail Gun killed the guy in that scene. But
That was
yeah,
pretty
so
gross.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Ryan Merriman's character, they were kind of the opposites. They didn't like each other, but they had to hang out because her best friend was his girlfriend, or vice versa. The guys were friends anyway. They were all kind of a group friends, but they didn't like each other. But they ended up needing to work together because she kind of told him and he believed her, and so they're going throughout the rest of the film trying to solve the thing, trying to figure out, okay, who was in the roller coaster car next? How did they die? But lots of craziness. And I think in this one, everybody dies. Nobody survives. I think the last kill is like a year later from in the movie, but it's like they're all on a train to get like a subway together, and then the subway, like that's how the movie
Yeah.
ends. It's like, I got you now.
Yeah, that was crazy. One of the scariest, I think, deaths on this one was the tanning bed scene where
Yeah.
the two popular girls went in and they're just doing their tanning bed where they close it and then like it gets latched and they basically burn to death. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and tanning beds were a thing like back then.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, they still kind of are, but that was
Yeah.
what you did. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that we actually commented on that when we were watching I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, because there's a scene in that movie where she's in a tanning bed and it gets kind of scary and stuff. But yeah, in this
Hmm.
one, like there's a shelf above the tanning bed and it falls and breaks, and then there's water from her big gulp that's dripping down and causes the monitoring device that's monitoring the temperature to short circuit, and then it basically fries them.
Yep.
But yeah, it's crazy scene. But like you said earlier, this is where it starts to take it up a notch of ridiculousness. The deaths are a lot more, and I think it's just where they're finding like, hey, this is what this movie franchise is. It's like, how big, how crazy can we get with these death scenes, and they go that way. So
But it was a neat twist with the pictures because then we
yeah.
started analyzing the pictures and going, okay, well, what do you see in that? So
Oh
that was
yeah, the
fun.
one dude, there was a fan behind his head, and they're like, what could that be? And then it ends up being a car engine that crashes through his car and is like spinning the back of his head off, like
Yeah, it was gross.
crazy. Yeah, gross, and so gross it makes me smile. I'm not a psychopath, guys. I promise. It's just these
He's not.
it's part of the entertainment of these types of films is how ludicrous can we get, and this is where you're starting to see it get a little crazy. So that's
Hmm.
all. And it's like, I'm not smiling because I like seeing death. I'm smiling because like that was a really interesting way to die. What is that song? Dumb ways to die.
You know,
Right?
honestly, yes.
One thing before you give your rating, I think the acting in this one, I think in all of these three films, the acting has been solid. Like the actors are taking it very seriously, and so that makes the realism of the film, at least in these first three, feel real, and there's something really we need to be scared of. Once we get to the fourth and fifth one, I think the acting drops off, and so therefore the quality of the film drops off. But I think these first three, you've got really good performances from the actors. So that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, and I think like based on how it ended, that surprise, it was a good story, I felt. So I give it a 3.
Yeah, I think a 3 is good for me too. Really solid. And again, if you like this type of a film, then it's worth watching. It's really good. It's really well done. It's similar to the first one in its methodology, but it's more unique deaths, more unique things, adding on the pictures as a way of interpreting how this person's going to die. Like it made it fun. It's like a mystery,
Hmm.
not just a torture or scary or just gruesome gore. Cool. All right, fourth one. Hey, we're on that 3-year plan, right? 2000, 2003, 2006. Final Destination 4. It's called The Final Destination, which in my mind, that signified the fact that they were like, you know what? This is the last one we're going to do. It's The Final Destination. It was in 3D. So as you're watching it, you're recognizing there's a lot of scenes and a lot of shots that were here just for the effect of seeing it come out of the screen at your face. But really ridiculous scenes in this one. The opening death scene that gets shown to us is basically like a NASCAR race. It's not NASCAR, but it's a race. Right. Around a track. Basically, they're at the car race and something falls off of a car and it ends up causing a car to wreck. That car wrecks and that crashes, and then things crash, things blow up. The whole stadium crashes down. People die. Everybody dies in the first scene. And then it flashes back and he's like, we got to get out of here. So he has to, same thing like the other ones. He has to remember, how did they die in my vision? How did that happen? And then it's also how they died in his vision ends up being how they also died. Or did he have visions of that?
I think he had visions.
So he was having, after the first thing, he's continuing to have real visions of the people's death, who's next and how they're going to die. Kind of like the second one. Mm-hmm. He's having visions. We don't do the picture thing, but he's having these flashes of like random images floating in his head. And then he has to try and figure out what does that mean? How did they die? So it was directed by David Ellis. It starred Nick Zano and Krista Allen. Those are the top billed people, and I've not seen them again. So as you can see, this is a little bit different, a type of movie. Kind of like I said, dipping in quality, but the fun of the idea and the concept is amping up. Like, we're going to get more crazy, more silly, more ridiculous with the way that these deaths happen. One of the other actors that is in this that I did recognize from other films was Michael T. Williamson, who played Bubba in Forrest Gump, Bubba Blue. He's a security guard, and then he ends up joining with the guy and girlfriend as they kind of navigate or trying to figure out how this person or how death is coming after them. There's lots of big epicness. The friend, the other guy friend, he's a big jerk. The girlfriend doesn't want to believe anything. So it's just like lots of craziness. There's a car wash death in this one. Which,
that was
when
crazy.
we were going through a car wash recently, we both were just like, I don't know.
There's all the faulty with her moonroof or sunroof. And so all of a sudden she's like trying to close it. Well, then she like stands up and then it works and it locks her in, and she's like,
yeah.
That was
they end up
crazy.
saving her from that, but then somebody else dies from, like, I think the suction, because they were trying to find something with water, because he had water in his dream, in his vision, and they think it's her because she's at the car wash, but then it ends up being the jerk friend who's stuck in the bottom of the pool because the regulator on the filter goes off, and now it's pulling suction so much that it rips his insides through. Like, I don't care what type of suction pump you have on a pool, it's not going to rip someone's guts out, right? Like, just a little bit too over the top there. But still, it was interesting death. One of the things that we did recognize in this film more than the others is that there's this racial tension in it that's kind of out of nowhere.
It's really excessive. George, the security guy, at the beginning when they're in the race, watching the race, he starts coming down. Somebody goes, well, there goes the neighborhood. It just was not necessary. And it could have been, I mean, at that time, I didn't recognize, I wasn't as sensitive to racial tension then as I am now. And I'm thankful that I am, so that we don't repeat the same mistakes. But it was just, there were so many derogatory comments that it really kind of pissed me off. Like, I didn't want to keep watching it.
And I'm wondering, so get this, the character's name that said that comment in the script, racist, like that's his name in the script. So maybe the director was trying to say, yeah, you shouldn't be this way. Because it definitely wanted us, okay, how is this dude going to die? Because I hope he bites it good, right? And then his wife's name is Racist Wife. Really? So maybe it was on purpose to like say, like, we need a character in here that's going to turn everything on its head, or everybody's going to be cheering for their death.
It was uncomfortable, though.
It
wasn't entertaining. It was more of like,
yeah, it definitely rubbed us the wrong way. And I think where it comes back, where I felt even more uncomfortable, is at one point George wants to kill himself to try and stop death. And so he's hanging himself in his room, and they find him and it broke or something and he couldn't even do it. So the next scene as they're talking, he still has the noose around his neck. And I was like, this just like it broke off. He's still where maybe it makes sense, but I just felt like it was unnecessary because
I
that
agree.
just had an image in my head that I wasn't excited to see that.
Also, when he took across to that racist guy's house, or was it the
The
racist guy
racist guy
taking
took it
across?
to his house, was going to
Oh,
set
that's
it
what
on
it was.
fire,
Okay.
and then he ended up getting
Yeah.
by the tow truck, ended up getting him, dragging him down the street.
Yeah.
There's a movie that they were going to, and there's going to be a big explosion, and they see the vision of it all happening, and then it ends up flashing back. So like the other ones where that happened in the beginning of the movie, and you think, oh, they're going to flash back. In this one, you didn't know that it was going to be another flashback, and it was another flashback. So they kind of tricked us. In this movie, we thought everybody died, and then no, it's another flashback. We're going to go, and he gets a chance to save them in that case. But they're in a mall theater, and the whole mall is like blowing up or whatever. But they end up getting out and escaping.
Oh, I
So
thought the friend died. I thought the girl, she was like, "No, I came here to watch this movie." And she was adamant.
maybe the friend did die. I couldn't remember, but
Yeah,
yeah,
the friend did because the boyfriend came and got the main
yeah.
character and took her out.
Yeah. And I wrote in my notes, oh, wow, another vision. Ha ha
Yeah.
ha. You know, because it's like a twist they haven't done that before. So it was like, okay, that's fine. One of the things we started noticing in this one is there's a lot of like in the previous one with the roller coaster, and there's letters out of signs and you're starting to see messages. There was other messages in this one. Like one of them was death by caffeine.
Mm-hmm.
The towing company is called Destiny Towing Company. The salon is called Salon Dante. So Dante's Inferno is a work from the Middle Ages that talked about hell. And so it's all these references that you're starting to see throughout the film.
Yeah, little pieces that it just kind of like starts jumping out at you. So one thing I felt like with this one is the main character was just very whiny and
Mm-hmm.
needy and just kind of annoying. So
Yeah.
that made it a little more challenging to watch too. But like you said, with the little things that we saw, I mean, the main opening scene when they were at the car race and you keep seeing all these little nuances like why is there a giant crack in this concrete wall,
Mm-hmm.
or that screw is like hanging on by a thread. And so it really just honed in on that. So you
Yeah.
knew something was going to happen.
Yeah, unlike the other ones, this one's like at the very beginning is giving you some of those hints right at the get-go. Like this is about to go down, here's what's going to happen. And then you're kind of trying to figure out, okay, what's the chain reaction that's going to make all this stuff go down? One of the other twists in this one that we weren't expecting that they had never done before is that there was someone that survived the initial massacre that wasn't a part of the friend group. And it was like the dad or something. And so we find out later that he's in the hospital and he's survived, and they got to go, oh no, we got to go find him. He ends up dying anyway. But that was just a unique twist, is that they thought that it was just their friend group that survived, but this other person survived as well.
And then in the salon we keep thinking, okay, it's going to be like the hair dryer. They're going to get electrocuted. No, the child spills something. Oh, they're going to slip and fall. No. And then it was a giant fan. Like,
yeah.
What?
So that was interesting too, because I think in the fifth one, they end up leaning into that idea more than the other films did. But in that moment, they're like trying to give us hints, but then like, oh, nope, we get it on twist. Yeah. So I think it's if you like the series, watch it because it's got some fun kills, but it's not a great movie. So what do you rate it?
I give it a 1 because of the racial stuff and how uncomfortable it was. And the main character. I didn't like her.
Yeah. I think I'd give it 2.5. I think I'm a little bit more than that. All right. We now get to the fifth one. This is Final Destination 5. And I think this one is definitely the one they thought, all right, this is the last one. Because it definitely felt like a series finale. So the opening of the credits have this kind of Bond-ish type of storytelling where you're seeing all the deaths, you're seeing all this, but they're kind of showing you 3D images of, not 3D, but like the X-ray images of their bodies and of all the deaths that you've seen in the prior movies. And it's like saying, hey, here's this. And then just to kind of get past the movie, at the end credits, they actually show all the clips from the prior movies of all the death scenes. So it's like, hey, this is the last one, guys. This is the one. Let's celebrate it. I think that's what they were envisioning in their head. This one came out in 2011, so 2 years after the Final Destination, and it's Final Destination 5, directed by Stephen Quayle, stars people we haven't really seen in any other films. Nicholas DaGosta, I do recognize him from something, but I'm not necessarily sure what. He was in the Gotham series. But like we mentioned in the last movie, this movie leans 100% into you think you know what's going to happen. We're showing you to make you think you know what's going to happen, and then it does something the complete different, like something different with it. So it's got some really unique, funny, if you can use that word, funny situations, funny deaths, because it catches you off guard. It's out of the normal, like 1-to-1, like this hits them and they die. It's way more over the top, and every death is they're gonna die like this. See, just kidding, they died like that. And every single one of them is that way. Real quick rundown of the story. They are getting on a bus for a work trip. Everybody's on the bus, and then the bus is on a bridge. The bridge collapses. They're trying to get off the bus and get out of the way and get across the bridge, and everybody's dying. It's pretty like normal how they all died, and they died in the specific order. So all those rules still apply to the movie. But there's watch your step and caution on the bridge sign. There's a semi driving next to the bus with logs, so that's hinting at the Final Destination 2. There's a giant sinkhole that hits on the bridge. So the premonition ended up being that they could save 8 people on the bus, and they end up starting to die one by one like they did in the prior films. We do see Tony Todd's character a few times in this film. He comes in a few different times. At the very beginning, he's there to see some of the deaths, and he basically gives them the rules right at the front of the movie. And then he comes back, I think, at the end of the movie as well. But yeah, there's just a lot of ludicrous deaths like we've seen. I will say one of the guys, Agent Block, this is Courtney B. Vance. I knew him from Law & Order. He was on one of the Law & Order shows, and he played the detective that's trying to solve the case. They think the kids had something to do with the murders, and then they start to figure out that, like, no, there's something else going on here. But yeah, it's acting down a little bit. Not the best at acting, but is it fun? Are there fun, unique deaths? Yes.
I really enjoyed the opening scene where you see the X-ray look, and it's so ridiculous, but like you said, with the Bond, it does have that feel, like that delivery. But I gotta talk about the work trip. What company goes on a work trip on a Saturday in a giant bus? It just seems kind of silly. Maybe they do. Maybe we'll get some comments. I don't know. But it was just kind of like some dad's dropping his daughter off. It just felt like a high school thing, but no, like they're adults.
Yeah. One of the guys I recognized from this movie is David Kushner. He played one of the bosses, and I knew him from The Office. He played one of the traveling salesmen that was like a real, like, ludicrous, like really awful person in the show, but like Michael Scott wanted to be like him kind of thing. But he's funny in this, and he's the boss, and so everybody on the whole office dies except for these 8 people. So they like get compensation and things like that. They're at the workplace. They are drinking on the job. Oh yeah, you also said one of the characters was dressed like pretty scantily for a work trip. It's like this seems a little off.
Yeah, why are we trying to be hot?
Yeah. One of the other things we had in this film, which is a very rare thing to see in film, is gymnasts. We had some gymnast stuff going on.
Yes, that was so wild. Okay, so they had gymnastics. I was super stoked. And what was fun about it was they had a nail on the beam. First of all, you would have seen that if you're on the beam, and it did look like real gymnastics. So they must have gotten a gymnast, so that's cool. But we thought she was going to step on it or something, that's how it was going to happen. Well, no, then she rotated to bars, which is completely out of the order that she would have done it anyways, but nobody knows that. The Olympic order is vault, bars, beam, floor. But then she goes to bars, and the chalk bucket gets knocked over, and then chalk goes everywhere, and because there's a fan right next to it, because that makes a lot of sense. So she's doing a giant, and then the bars or she loses her grip, she peels off and completely like lands backwards, and then all her guts like come out. It was just kind of silly, but it was fun seeing gymnastics in it.
Yes. Yeah, it's good. I enjoyed seeing the gymnastics too. And it was the girl after her that was on beam stepped on it. And that's who she fell off the beam, knocked the chalk went into the fan blew the chalk into her face. But a real gymnast, they don't necessarily have to see that. They would be able to navigate a little bit of chalk in their face, I think. But
and you can still land. Like you would just do a little, dismount.
You learn how to fall, right? You learn how to land. Yeah, yeah.
That's all part of gymnastics is falling. You learn how to fall first thing. Okay, I have a note that's the acting was mid to bad. So there's
Yeah,
that.
there's that. Deaths were pretty unique and fun. Nothing really stands out a whole lot except for the gymnast one. That one stood out.
Yeah.
But all of them are a little wacky. So the main character and the girlfriend, or the guy and the girl that are the main people we're following, he's a chef part-time, but he's got an opportunity. He can go to the train to be a chef in Europe in this really good, nice restaurant like school. And he doesn't want to go because he doesn't want to leave her. Meanwhile, she's trying to break up with him, so he will go. That's kind of the first scene, is they're like, she's trying to break up with him. But then they end up sticking it out. They end up making it through this horrible life experience, near death experience. They make it all the way through, and then they decide, you know what? We're going to go together. We're going to go together. And they go, and they realize that they told us in the beginning, I'm saving it for now, but they're going to Paris, and they're getting on the plane at the very end of the movie, and they see Devon Sawa character and the others getting off the plane. And that's how the fifth film ends. So
That was neat. That was a neat twist. I mean, it actually made the movie bearable, but yeah, it was kind of like, all right, how silly are we going to get to this point?
yeah.
But that's what we had signed up for.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, let's rate it. Like I said, Tony Todd's in it a couple times. It's really fun to see him there. There are some ridiculous deaths that are fun to watch if you like that sort of thing. But overall, not necessarily a great movie, but it fits the genre. It fits the concept of the films up to this point. It just does it a little bit more over the top.
Yeah, I give
What
it
do
a
you
2.
got? All right, I'll do a 2 as well. Yeah. So fun stuff. Excited for the new one. I will say that. I mean, just because watching all of these was fun to rewatch again. I think I'd seen them all before, but maybe not the fourth one. But I feel like I'd seen them all before. But the new one looks great. It comes out this Friday. It's directed by Zach Lepovsky and Adam Stein, and stars Tony Todd, Breck Bassinger, and April Telek. I will say I didn't recognize anybody necessarily from the trailer except for Tony Todd, but it does look like we're going to get a lot of those chain reaction kills, chain reaction deaths, and it does look like it's just everything's amped up a little bit more, probably more gory, more realistic, because the CG is a little bit better now than it was back in 2011. So I think it's just going to be one of those bigger, badder death scenes, so should be kind of fun.
I hadn't seen anything past the second movie, so all those 3 were new to me. But yeah, I'm excited about this new one. I'm interested to see how it is, and actually, I'm more interested to see about the people that go to watch it, like how well it does, because it's like, if you've watched through the fifth one, you may not really be that excited to see it. So, but then again, if you've only seen the first or second, you might be more inclined to go. So we'll see.
Yeah. 14 years after the last one, that's a really big difference to try and bring a series back. But hey, it'll be fun. Yeah, I'm anxious to see how the box office does too. That's a good call out. Very cool. Well, thanks for joining me for all these movies and for this conversation.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, just a reminder, you can check out all of our links at bio.site/moviesthatmakeyou. Drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. But until next time, keep watching movies.